All right, thank you for joining us on Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, number 133. I'm your host, Greg Gabb. The gang's all here. We got Phil and John and Jeremy and John and then Lef and J-Rod and Wayne and Mike and Phil and Chris and Jim and Garth and Dewan and Dennis and Bill and other people. Let's talk slot cars. If you have anything that you want to show and tell, now is the time to raise your virtual hand and we'll make sure to get to you. And I have something to show and tell as well, but I'll hold off on that because it's just a little time filler. And Bill had his hand up, and I'm looking forward to some cool track video stuff from Bill. What you got? Oh, your mic ain't working.
You, bud.
You're not muted, but it ain't working.
Is that better?
There we go.
All right. Okay, I'm getting better at it. This weekend was, I don't know if you guys saw I posted a tutorial on how to do these backgrounds on a couple of the groups. And wow, that will put you through understanding the workflow of video production, even in a bumbling sense. Wow. So I have learned some new things, and I have been, if you look at that video, you can see the life being drained out of me towards the end. The part where I'm in the sweater and not the flannel, because I'm not a YouTuber, so I'm not gonna mess around with keeping the clothes the same.
No continuity. Aw. No
continuity. So when you see me in the sweater, just understand that I'm a beaten man. That's all. So, but let me post the. I'll put in the chat there. There's the link to my YouTube channel. I finally, I guess it's pretty much going. Greg, it's probably better for you to share that video since you're hosting.
Sure.
You want to do the ground cover one?
Yep.
So I finally started doing ground cover, basically, guys. And that's been I don't know. I've been afraid of doing it for some reason, but I finally started putting down some glue and everything, and yeah, real happy with it.
All right, let me get that going. Hold on here.
Yeah.
Share screen, share audio.
All right.
Castle Rock gets ground cover.
Hopefully it'll move quick enough.
Turn the volume down so we should be able to hear you, your commentary.
So if you see there's a dog in there, that's actually my dog. That's the dog's not really there. That was just a little photo I put in, kind of traced her out. But she's always in here with me, so I figure what the heck. So you can see it's come a fair distance. You've got some ground cover, some basically all the way around. The center is what's left. And of course, I put the fence in before I did the center, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I literally now I have a quota of about 5 to 6 fence slats every time I do a project.
Breaking them.
But so the tutorial is just showing how to do the backgrounds like you see here, and then the rest is just your ground cover essentially, and that's just grass and bushes and things like that. There's a lot more to do, but I'm getting there. So that's about all.
It's looking great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
It's a fun. So in our business, one of the things that we're about to start doing are some YouTube videos, basically for product promotion, that sort of thing, and some educational stuff. We run a feed mill, and so learning these skills just for this alone is really a positive thing because I can transfer it into my work as well. And so it's great when you can have your hobby kind of, bleed into other parts of your life. And so I'm pretty happy about where we're headed with it, but there's a lot more work to do. I've really been enjoying, I don't know if you guys have seen the grandstand that Kevin Sharp's been working on with Racetrack Scenics. But I'm looking at that thing and just going, man, I'm thinking my pit is calling for that. And I even have a laser cutter, but I'm like, man, that thing looks so nice. So we'll see. But that's what I've got.
He definitely knows what he's doing to make those products.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the layout looks fantastic. So yeah, looking forward to more progress. And
thank you.
And I'll put the link to
hopefully soon we'll have some cars
in the description. I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, so hopefully soon we'll have some more cars too, or I'll have some cars that I can actually put on it. right now, guys, all the money's going into the decal or the decors, the decor and all of that. You know, it's kind of cart before the horse.
That's funny.
We're getting there.
Yeah, the cars will come. You've built the track, now the cars will come.
Exactly. So,
all right, thanks for sharing that. Did anybody have any questions or comments for Bill? All right, let's move on to Dennis. What you got today, Dennis?
Oh, took me a bit of time to unmute. And now I need to change the camera. And there we go. Ooh. The latest from MR Slot Car, the Ferrari 333 SP. And I took one in the Olive Garden colors because I just thought it was spectacular.
Yeah,
and
that looks really nice.
It's very, very nice. It's the proportions are really good, I think. It has the regular type of MR Slot Car mechanicals with a flat 6 20.5K motor, just regular solid axle up front, although it does have those little bits and pieces that you could put in that front end suspension and the independent axles up front. You could put in the suspension on the outriggers of the pod, things like that. So all of the standard parts that are available on the other MR Slot cars are available here. It comes with a wood guide, which is very cool for me. I like that. With the regular tires on my track, it's a 7.2 second car. Once I put the slotted N22s on the back and did a bit of tuning, it's now a 5.9 second car.
Oh my goodness.
And so it's maybe a tenth or so slower than the MR Slot Car McLaren F1 GTR, the one with the similar motor. So it's right up there. And I haven't done a lot of tuning yet. I've just got it to run. But I thought I'd let you guys see that because they're out now. They're available all over the place, and I think Ernie's done a great job on it. It's interesting to put it next to the Revo Slot one because they're exactly the same length, but the Revo Slot is about 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch or so wider. And of course, it's 25 grams heavier.
Yeah.
And so they're probably not really competitive with one another. I think this one will run away from it. But yeah, that's me for today.
Does it come with breadsticks?
Again?
Does it come with breadsticks?
All you can eat, John. All you can eat.
You know, if you were to get a silver and gold one of those, you could put a circle around your Christmas tree and it would be the theme. I mean,
oh yeah, yeah, just about.
That's a great color combination.
The silver's already a little bit there on the wing, but
yeah, that's a nice
car. They're very nice. There's three liveries out. There's this one, and there's a red one and a yellow one. And
is the wing attached to the body shell or the chassis?
Yeah, the wing's attached to the body shell, and
does it easily detach, or will it snap off?
It'll snap. I think it's pretty solid, but I think if you were to drop the car, it'll snap.
Yeah.
So that's something we'll have to watch. But other than that, it's really very, very nice. It's done a great job. All right, that's me for today.
We ran a bunch of those, or we ran a few customers' cars on the Polo car track. Basically took them out of the box this weekend, flipped the magnets out of them, adjusted a few screws, and with the stock tires, as Dennis was saying, on the Polo car track, they were really nice. With tires appropriate for your track, they're going to be really, really nice. And personally, I think you picked the right livery, the yellow one and The red one don't look anywhere near as nice as the Olive Garden one, in my humble opinion. But anyway.
Well, I mean, we know what to expect from MR Stock Car, and it sounds like that's what we got.
It's another one just as good as the previous ones.
Yeah,
in my opinion. And now we can't wait for that Shadow DN4 that's coming. That's going to be the cool car.
Yep. Good stuff. All right, thanks for sharing that one, Dennis. And Phil is next. What's up?
Oh, not a problem. Just a quick update on our Revo project. I've got some bodies here to show you if I can turn the camera around. A bit of a line-up here. We've got an RX3. Sorry about the clarity here, but we've got an RX3 sitting on the chassis.
Cool.
There. No flares on that one, but it doesn't fit too bad. Wants a little bit of adjustment in the wheelbase on the next print. That's one of mine, one I downloaded. It's a bit thick at the moment, so it needs to go off to Vlad and be thinned out a little bit because the body's a bit heavy. This is a Volvo that Vlad sent me. It's a little bit out of proportion to fit the chassis. It's a little bit wide, so I'll have a bit of a talk to him and see whether we're going to narrow it down and put some flared guards on it. Can you see that? Mazda RX2 coupe. That one fits exactly on as it is.
And these go on the Revo Slot Alpha or
Slot Alpha?
No.
They go on the Alpha. They go on the Revo Slot Escort chassis, or
Escort only. We've only done them for the Escort because I talked to Vlad and I said, look, because of the Escort's a little bit longer, I think everyone will go for the Escort anyhow.
Yeah.
Chassis. So at the moment, we've only done them for the Escort chassis. That's his Datsun that he's widened and shortened to fit. That's a resin print. I haven't finished cleaning the supports out of it yet. And the last one is another RX2 coupe, which ran in the Japanese series. It's got flared guards and a bit of a different front on it. So, yeah, that's about as far as we've got at the moment. But they all fit at the moment. So the only one I'm a bit disappointed in at the moment is the Volvo. I think it's a little bit out of proportion, but we'll have a talk about that and see where we want to go with that. So, yeah.
Front end looks a little flat on it too.
Yes.
Kind of flat and square up front. Which
yes, because it's so wide, I think, Dennis, it looks a bit out of proportion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'll talk.
They look good.
Yeah.
And are those files going to be available soon?
Well, I hope so. Well, a couple of them are available now if you want to download them. The Mazdas I've already downloaded off I think it was 3D prints, but they're very thick and very heavy. So I'm going to send them to Vlad and he's going to thin them out. And I'll have a talk to him, see whether the RX3, we can put some little flares on it to make it look a bit more appropriate. The Datsun, of course, is Vlad's, and this is just a test print, so no doubt he'll sort that out. Yeah. Who's put that Alpha up there?
I've got the Vlad.
John likes to use.
I've got the Vlad stuff printing right now too.
Yeah.
And my Volvo is coming off, or my Volvo came out earlier today, and it's definitely wider. But for me, I wanted it wider because I wanted to be able to race against the other cars because that real life Volvo was so narrow. I don't know what you could put underneath it to get it to run right.
No. Well, he's widened it out to suit the Revo Escort. But I think, putting some little flares on it might be the way to go and bring the body back in a little bit more in proportion. But that's just my thoughts at the moment. Any feedback from you guys, and when you print yours out, have it. Let us know what you think as well.
Did it race with flares? Because I don't know personally whether or not
I don't know.
It didn't race very well. It didn't have a great racing history from what I've read.
But
it's
a
so
Volvo
narrow in real life.
How dare you? On, guys! They won the Index of Performance at the Kyle Army 9 hour like 3 years in a row back in the day.
Yes.
They ran very, very well. They weren't that fast, but they ran. They were very reliable.
Hey, but of all the slot cars, it's the safest one out there.
Yeah.
Well, which Volvo model is it? Is it the Amazon?
122.
Yeah, Amazon.
Yeah, 122 Amazon. Yes.
Yeah, 122S.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was it ran in Trans Am, so I think that's what Vlad based
it on. B20 version by the looks of it.
Didn't they rally with that car as well?
Yes,
probably.
It's a bit heavy for rally.
Yeah.
I saw
I see
I
one.
saw a 122S racing the under 2 liter class that this Alfa Romeo won that day at Mid Ohio, 1970. There was a 122 racing in that class that day.
Yeah. Yes. I don't
one of the guys in the Volvo club that I belong to raced a 122 for quite a number of years, and it was blue and yellow, Greg. just so you know.
I guess I'm going to need to have somebody customize one of those cars for me.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
really.
a Swedish car. It would have to be blue and yellow, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
and he's from Seattle area, so
Anyhow, that's all for me. I just thought I'd give you an update. And
Was that the one?
There you go.
Jim's on the ball.
that looks like it.
That's
Very cool.
yeah. Where'd you find that, Jim?
You see, that's got bubble arches. That you could do
Yeah.
exactly what Phil was talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's got IPD stickers on it, so it must be a US car.
Yeah. Where'd you find that picture, Jim?
Google.
Sorry, I just Googled it.
Oh, right. Thank you. I'll Google it and pass it on to Vlad and get him to have a look at it, see if he can do it. He's a bit snowed under at the moment, so sort of sorting things
Tim, did
out.
it say who the driver was?
I'll look.
I'm not surprised he snowed under with coming on here and telling us all about what he's capable of.
He can't say no to anyone.
Yeah.
That's the trouble. He's a lovely guy.
I don't see any driver, but here's another view of it.
Yeah.
It's got big flares.
Yep.
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean,
It,
it's obvious.
it looks pretty much like his car.
Looks like they didn't bother to take the chrome work off when they hit it with the rattle cans.
All right. Well, I guess it's my turn to do a quick share.
Yeah.
Got
Thank
a
you,
couple
guys.
of-
Oh,
Thank you
apologies
for-
from Big Den too, Greg.
What was that?
Apologies from Big Den. He's got a computer club meeting this morning, so
All good.
he said it was-
If you can come, great. If not,
yeah.
that's okay too. So thank you for that share, Phil. And I'm going to do my share. Got the cars, of course, they are blue and yellow. I'd known about this Aussie V8 for a few years, and it was always very expensive. And so I finally gave in and paid through my nose in order to get it from a guy down
Oh,
under.
you didn't.
I did.
Ah,
It is what it is. I got money. I'm okay.
yeah.
Does it close better than the window? Okay, bad joke.
Yeah, I didn't get that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
They don't go very well. though.
Boo.
And
looks
when,
great.
when he was packing that up, I looked at his other sales and saw this car that I didn't even know about. And I said, hey, can you get that? Can I get that one too? So now I have two Aussie V8s. This one's older. It's got the old, pop
That
out.
was a limited edition that was only sold out of the UK.
This one was?
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think Dennis had
You
two
see
of
on the
them.
front bumper it says racer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not certain that isn't a RC car magazine that used to exist in the UK. I'm not sure. I can't be certain.
Yeah. One of the shops in the UK commissioned that one and a grey one, and they sold them only out of the UK at the time.
So he probably had to pay through the nose to get it from the UK at the time.
No, they couldn't sell them.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So-
And don't bother
And
putting it on the
is it a
track. It is all
Cavalier?
on the
Is
track.
it? You wouldn't know it as a Cavalier. I was just trying to work out what the actual car was. The other one.
Commodores. That's a Commodore.
Pontiac.
Is it?
Holden Commodore. Yep. VX Holden Commodore, I think it is. Yeah. Yeah.
What
But
were you gonna say,
they
Phil?
don't go
a
very
German
well.
Opel of some sort.
What were you going to say, Phil?
They don't go very well because the motor is sort of high over the back axle and wants to wind itself up over the spur gear all the time.
Yeah.
I'm working on a printed chassis because a lot of the guys down here have got those early cars, and we run them as a class. So working on a printed chassis to sort of lower the motor down in it a bit. So yeah,
I don't think that'll ever be a class in my club, just simply because It's, they're.
You're the only one who got them.
I'm the only one who's got them. I believe. I have another Aussie V8 that my parents grabbed for me when they went down under. I'm like, hey, if you go to any hobby store, just go in and say, can I get an Aussie V8? And they'll know exactly what you're talking about. I don't care what color it is. This was before my blue and yellow finish. I just said, just any. I don't even care, just any. And so they brought one down.
Isn't it hard to run a class of all blue and yellow cars?
Not for me.
That was a joke.
You got 74.
Anyway, my show and tell is done. Does anybody else have any show and or tell?
I've got something else to show you, Greg.
Show it away.
And I turn the camera around.
Oh yeah, there's yours.
How about that one, mate? And it's blue and yellow, the right colour for you.
That's a different one. That one's Jim Richards as opposed to James Courtney.
Yes.
All right, send it on over.
Not a problem.
All right, Chris, do you got anything? I didn't hear you chime in, so I'm assuming no. In which case, we are going to do Club Corner. So if you have any past, present, or future, more than one person driving a slot car at a time activity to talk about, now's the time. Raise your virtual hand or wave your real hand in front of the camera, and I'll call on you. Not a whole lot of people jump into the gun to to do Club Corner. Mike, you're reaching for your phone. You're already unmuted.
Yeah, I know.
He's going to mute himself.
I had 3 races this weekend, but I was a little remiss about the time because I was working on stuff in the house. So I didn't have a lot of time to equalize the cars, and I accidentally, quote, made myself the winner in 2 out of the 3. And I would have won the 3rd one, but I blew it. So yeah, it was one of those things. I went, well, I'll just grab this car, and I went, oh, wait a minute, that was a little faster. So I tried to equalize it as best I could with the gas, but it didn't work. So
Mike, can't you find a way to equalize it by the race format so that everyone drives all the cars?
It's really difficult. For one thing, one of the drivers is always a really bad qualifier. He will be mostly 3 to 5 tenths faster in the race than in the quali or practice. Don't ask me why, but it happens every time. And he's pretty consistent. That's Mike, the other Mike.
That's called sandbagging.
No, he doesn't do it on purpose. He does it with the 120. He races 124th with me too. And he does the same thing. He will consistently qualify really badly and end up in the B main, win the B main, and be in the main in the A main, and come out 2nd or 3rd, sometimes even win it doing that. It's crazy. It's just the way he works. Who knows?
Even when he knows the layout.
Pardon me?
Even when he's familiar with the layout.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
that usually happens if you're familiar, and then you learn the layout as the day progresses. But yeah.
It probably just means that he's very, very consistent and doesn't come out so much, but he's actually not that fast.
Either that, or he's figured out if you're always slowing in the B main and got to work your way up, you get a lot of racing in the night.
That could be too.
You don't have to sit around waiting for the A main.
And you don't have to turn marshal. That's the big deal.
That's it. Absolutely.
Well, with us it's no big deal because everybody marshals their own cars on a track call. So
yeah,
it makes it easy. But yeah, you got a point there. Maybe he hates marshaling. Psychologically, it's bad for him, and he just wants to do it that way. Anyway, we had a great time. I don't usually watch the videos completely, but I had to this time because I missed a lap on the 2nd race in the Carrera GT race, and I wanted to make sure that whether I won or lost. But it turned out my screw up at the end really put me over 2 laps down. So I didn't win, even though the computer didn't say I won or lost rather. So it was one of those things. But I had discovered that I laugh a lot. I must be having a good time. So it's a great time. I love it.
Yeah,
Got to respect the going back to the video for the replay just to count his laps again to make sure the computer did its job.
I've done that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
the commitment to the achieving the trophy was admirable.
And he still didn't get
well,
it.
there was a little bit of male peeing contest there going on.
Yeah,
Shiggy was sure that he had won, and I found that I had lost that lap, and I went, ooh, I got him, and then I went, oh, I didn't.
Never mind.
So,
all right,
but we had a great time.
Good deal. And Dennis has his hand up. What you want to talk about? Is this Club Corner stuff or?
Yeah, this is Club Corner stuff, I guess, because last Saturday we had a big race at Electric Dreams. Well, any race these days at Electric Dreams seems to be a big one. We ran Racer Sideways GT Group 5s in the morning, and then in the afternoon we ran the Trans Am class that we have, which is effectively stock Scale Electric and Pioneer Trans Am cars. The only thing you're allowed to change on those cars basically is you can put a different guide in it, and we have a special aluminum wheel that we had made up, so you can put aluminum wheels on the back, and you have to run the stock tires. You can weight it up as much as you like, but that's it. And so you're going from in the morning cars that are running the low sixes to the afternoon the cars are running low eights, and it's quite a difference. It's very relaxed, shall we say, in the afternoon. I got some photos.
I caught a bit of the qualifying session for the Group 5s.
Yeah, and
I was seeing low eights for a lot of the drivers as a qualifying lap.
Oh yeah, those same guys when they came to the Trans Ams were in the 9s and slower.
I was surprised how difficult the Group 5s looked to get them to drive nicely. A lot of the guys that hadn't got them right were falling over, weren't they?
Yeah, I didn't think it was that bad, but I must admit I didn't watch a lot of it while I was there. I was busy with my own cars. You know what it's like. You don't spectate much when you're either turn marshalling or you're at your pit space.
I got to watch it. It was fun. It's fun to watch too. It looked like a lot of fun.
Marco did send out a couple of photographs. Can you see that?
Yep.
These are just photographs that were taken by one of the guys, just showing more the people than the cars.
I really like what you guys are doing with Electric Dreams. I hop on the live streams on a pretty regular basis. When I see those now, it's real nice.
This guy is interesting. This fellow, anybody know who he is?
I do.
Yeah, but you tell me.
This is John Morton. The John Morton who used to drive the BRE number 46 Datsun 510 and a bunch of other things. He came around.
That what is it, a 300 ZX turbo IMSA car they had. That thing is outrageous, and he drove that very, very well.
Yeah, he shared that with Brabham, didn't he? He shared the driving with Brabham on that.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, yeah.
He was at the Velocity Invitational last month at Laguna Seca, and he drove his original 510 as the pace car for the Trans Am grid.
Oh, cool. Wow. Yeah, anyway, so he was there, and so I had a good chat with him. He's a very, very nice fella. He used to race slot cars when he was a kid, he said, and he's quite interested in coming back and doing it again.
Nice.
So,
does he live in that area?
I guess he must. I didn't actually ask him where he lives.
It'd be awesome to have him race there.
Yeah. So for Group 5s in the morning, we had 26 entries. For the Trans Ams in the afternoon, we had 24. So it was a good a good turnout overall. Okay, that's me.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Nice.
Dennis, what kind of tuning did you do on the Scalextrics?
All right, I ran a Pioneer notchback Mustang, and
like that.
And yeah, like that. I ran it actually. The one that I bought was one of the paint it yourself jobs, and it comes with two guides in it. It has a deeper guide, which is forward track. So I used that, and then I took off the plastic wheels at the back and put on the Electric Dreams aluminum wheels that we're allowed to use. I machined them out a little, and I cut down the original wheels to make some inserts. And you've got to run the original tires, so I did that, but they were cut down quite a bit smaller to get the car low. And then I had a piece of 0.032 thick stick-on lead that's about an inch wide and an inch and a half long. This massive piece of lead just stuck to the underneath of the chassis. It worked okay. The Mustangs are not anywhere near as wide as the Camaros, either in Scalextric or Pioneer. And so if you didn't have a Camaro, you really weren't going to be
at the races
competitive. But I did the Mustang because I wanted one as a model of the one that used to race back in South Africa when I was a kid. And I qualified 9th. I was quite happy with that. I was running pretty well, and the car just stopped. I never did find out why. It just stopped. I have a funny feeling there was something with the braids in the guide. I couldn't get it to go. So when I brought it home, I whipped out that guide and put a slot inversion guide into it. And I'll go from there. No, I put in a slotting plus guide, one of those really long ones, because a lot of the guys were using those.
Yeah.
So that would be the only other thing to change would be the guide. And the big secret with either of those cars, either Scalextric or Pioneer, on that track is just to get the tires ground down to get the car as low as you could possibly go. The next time, I think, well, you're limited eventually by the fact that the spur gear protrudes below the chassis. So you're never going to get really, really low ground clearances, unfortunately, because you've got to clear the gear.
How much ground clearance did you have?
Enough for lead underneath.
underneath the lead, probably still about 25, maybe 30,000. I'll find the car and I'll show you.
Okay. I'm setting up a bunch of those now, so that's why I'm.
Every rule set I've ever run under insists that ballast weight is never visible from above or below. It has to be inside. I'm surprised
because you can hit the braid, and can't you short the track out there if you get the wrong balance?
Yeah. Most of the classes we run down here, the lead's all got to be inside the car.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Under the lead, there's maybe 35 at the back and 20 at the front. Maybe a little less than 20 at the front. It's very low. It's as low as I can get it, I think. You could see the lead under there.
I've got with 20 millimeter tires, I've got 1.3 millimeters of clearance on this one.
Yeah, so I think my tires may be a little smaller than 20 by now. Anyway, but I mean, remember that there's 32 thousandths worth of lead under there, right? Just stuck to the bottom of the chassis.
Yeah, it's a huge piece.
It's a huge
piece of lead.
You buy it. It comes from Alpha Products from Paul Pfeiffer in Wisconsin, and he sells it like that piece in a packet. And I just take it out the packet and trim up the edges so it's nice and square and slap it straight on. Right, didn't even bother to cut it or anything. Just made sure it was flat and stuck it straight on. And my car was still one of the lighter ones. I think there were a lot of guys who had a bit more weight than that even. But we're running with a stock motor, and they're actually quite a lot of fun.
How narrow is it, Dennis? Is it 57, 59?
Oh,
sorry.
I mean, those cars are a lot of fun. You know, we've raced them in both my analog club and my digital club.
Across the outside of the tires at the back, it's 56 millimeters.
Yeah, very, very.
Which is narrow, you know.
Yeah.
I think you can. What's his name? The Camaro you can probably get him out to about 60.
Well, I've got 60 on this one that it's out there, and it sticks out a little bit from the wheel wells.
Yeah, I could probably get mine a little further out, but there's so little axle inside it that I didn't want to go too far. And I'm just trying to remember whether we were allowed to use spacers. Yes, I think we were. So, but anyway.
Did anyone
Did
run?
you have to use the original axle shaft then?
Yes,
and,
you have to use the original axle and the original gears.
Okay.
And is that a knurled axle on a Pioneer?
No, it's a smooth axle on a Pioneer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Scalextric are knurled.
Yeah.
So you have to carefully file down the knurling a little bit so that the aluminum wheel fits on it straight.
Did anyone run any of the Mopars? Either the Scalextric Mopars?
No.
What about the jet?
There are very few guys running the Scalextric car, although there were actually. Some of the top guys were actually running the Scalextric cars, but they were all the Camaros.
Yeah, it's.
One of the things
for sure.
I keep wanting to say, let me get this out of the way. One of the things I like about those cars for digital racing is because of the shape of the front end, the person, when you're digital racing, the guy who tailgates and hits people from behind is the one who takes himself out, because the front of the car, when he hits somebody from behind, goes up and out, and the guy he hits almost never comes out. So that's like, I've used those cars to suggest to people to use them as training cars for people who don't like to slow down and not hit other cars in the lane.
I don't know anybody like that.
All right, thank you for that, Dennis. And then Jeremy, he's got his hand up.
Sure. On the day before Halloween, I haven't been on the show for a while, so share this. We had my first real race at our place. So this was our turnout plus me. So for my track, this is considered pretty good. We had a good day of racing. And then the day after Halloween, or the next day was Halloween. So my daughter, when her friends came over before Halloween, they also had a little event. Let me see if I can pull that there. They also had a little event. I was trying to get them interested in slot car racing too. Like when her friends would come over and they were waiting for it to get dark, they'd do some laps, but just not as interesting. Like if this was me, I would not have been able to been pulled away from it, but Candy was more interesting for them. So, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, kids always love it, but when they have something else to do, their attention, doesn't last quite as long.
So what classes of cars did you use on your grown-up event then?
On the grown-up event, we have 6-7 different classes that we run. There's all roles. But one of the good things to come out of this, I can't find where does this stop sharing, but why does it always disappear on me? We found that I'm the only person with a magnetic track left. And so it's kind of created a weird situation because I'd been out of the club for a few years and came back recently. But I think I'm convincing people now that maybe we should just switch to non-magnet, or the magnet limit shouldn't be more than 20 to 50 grams tops, because like right now one of the classes we have, the limit is 400 grams, and that's you're not even driving at that point. You're just holding down a button and hoping you don't come out.
But if yours is the only magnet track, why do they even have that rule anymore?
No, just because they never updated it. It used to be we had 3 magnetic tracks, 1 non-magnet track, but as people left, retired, moved away, it kind of flipped and now onto there's 3 wood tracks and only one magnetic track, and they just never have changed the rules. So I think this year maybe we can finally get something done. So
Yeah.
I just want to get to way less magnetic downforce.
Yeah, that'd be pretty ridiculous to be driving essentially non-mag and then the same car, because they never took the magnet out, put it on your track, and it's just.
Yeah, and if we switch to no magnet overall, that'll just make it easier for new guys. They don't have to have 2 separate cars, because you really want 1 magnet car and 1 non-magnet car for weight tuning.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you have 400 grams of downforce on a car, you're just basically pulling the trigger and letting off. It's almost like HO racing at that point. It's just stupid.
Well, you could run that on the ceiling, couldn't you?
Probably, yeah. It'll definitely stick to your. Yeah. If it goes flying towards a refrigerator, it might stick to the fridge, not hit the floor.
You know, Jeremy, we've been running magnet cards and non-magnet in the series. We've just voted to our Polycar F1 cars this year is all non-magnet. So we will do an entire series. You'll only have to have 1 car, all be non-magnet.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I know people poo-poo magnet racing, but like with 20 grams of downforce, 25, it's still fun. It's it's something different.
That's 20 grams of downforce. It's kind of like having a lead weight in the car.
Yeah.
Not much more.
Yeah, a little bit different because it's but yeah, similar. Okay, so before we just open the floor, let's talk about the slot car math trade group. Jeremy, did you want to speak on that, or you want me to?
Sure. I've got the math trading group. We finally hit 25 people, thanks to Dewan. He invited some guys that also joined in. So I said once we got to over 20 people, we are going to take a look at running through our first math trade, doing it as a demo and just like putting up trades that we might have, but we're not going to actually trade. It's just going to be fake stuff. So if you're a part of that group, I'll post the link in here to anybody that's interested. Just the first post is up now. I put a few things up here that I would trade. We're not doing that, but just to kind of show you guys what to do, you put your name in number 1, number 2, number 3. So just so we can kind of track of whose stuff is in there. So other than that, Greg, if you can think of anything, and we're just going to have to hash out some rules, because I've looked here at Facebook's so weird. Like when you post something and try to put it in order, Facebook puts it in the order that they want you to see it, not the order that you put it in. Like they move stuff around on you. So it's just, we're going to have to run through it one time as a demo and see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that's basically all there is to it. Is we're just going to have to do it as realistically as possible, so that we work out as many kinks as possible during this dry run, basically.
Yeah.
And figure out how to make things stay in the right order. I mean, as long as I assume that I didn't look at your post yet, but I assume that when you put something in, you number it, or maybe an admin numbers it. So that things don't, like if you put 1, 2, 3 in, and then somebody else comes and puts 4, 5, 6, maybe somebody else is putting 4, 5, 6 at the same time, and then you get a bunch of number mix-ups. But if mods or admins are the only ones who assign numbers, I've seen this done for other things in other groups. People just post their thing, and then a mod comes in later and says, just puts a comment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in response to their post, that kind of stuff.
We'll get a complete list of items that are being traded. Before anything gets traded, we'll finalize that on like a notepad and make sure everybody looks at it and goes, yeah, that's my number, that's my name, that's what I'm trading. Yeah, because there's gonna have to, people are gonna have to look at what's on there.
You can upload, Jeremy, you can upload files to a Facebook page. So, right at the header of the page, there's a place where you could put a file in. So if somebody just took everything that you were putting up, put it in a file and just set it there, it can be a PDF or whatever. And then you'd have a document people could look at to see the listings.
Once all the submissions are done.
Well, feel free to join. I put the link here in the chat. As long as I know it's you guys. If you're watching this later on a rewind, don't just click there. You won't have a link to click on.
There won't be a link.
But if you are on the outside of this chat, you just watch it and you want to get invited, talk to somebody here that's in this group. We're trying to keep this to people that we know and people that you know. So if you have a friend that's in here, you want in.
Ooh, McLaren Formula One car.
But hey, so Wayne, feel free to join this one, Wayne. I know you're in the UK, so we won't include you in the real one, but for now, just feel free to see how it works, and maybe one day you run one for the UK side. All right.
All right, thank you for that. And the floor is open. So Wayne, Wayne, did you want to do your thing? Whatever it was.
If you like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this is a call out to. This is entirely just a bit of fun. I saw something on TV, and it's slot car related, obviously. And I thought, oh gosh, I wonder if I can get someone to try this. So I'm going to show you my TV set. I'm going to let the thing play, and hopefully you can hear. You'll know these guys.
Oh yeah,
The Grand Tour.
Oh yeah.
No audio.
Yeah, we can't hear him.
Are we supposed to hear something?
So you can't hear?
No.
No.
Okay, so what's happened is May has fitted some drift rings to a full-size car and took it around a go-kart track doing some drifting with a front-wheel drive car.
Okay.
And he likened it to wrapping electrical tape around your Scalextric car wheels.
Yeah.
And what happens just there in the conversation is that they go through the audience and ask us anyone who's ever wrapped electrical tape to make a drift car from their Scalextric car. And I never have. And I thought it might be fun if we could try get someone who's got their track nearby to actually do that and demonstrate it for us during the chat. Is that possible?
If anybody who wants to do that.
Well, you know, we used to use Scotch tape, but I was on an Eldon track. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that constantly when I was like 12 years old.
Yeah. One of the guys.
Well, I'll tell you, when I had Scalextric Classic Track and I had out of the box cars that were never modified, and most of those were secondhand anyway, the cars were quite drifty anyway.
Yeah.
So that's how I learned.
Why don't you just pull out an old fly car with original tires?
Yeah, there you go. You don't need to drift it with anything.
Yeah. One of the guys in my digital club loves rally racing so much that he did a bunch of different things to try to reduce grip on his cars that he wanted for this slidey, like ice racing set of cars. And
well, I've never seen. I mean, I had those stock cars that would spin completely around.
Yeah. Those have turbo tires, of course, so that they can spin around easy. But it was funny because he would do. And my friend did
the wires and getting my dad to fix them was what childhood was all about. But I've never actually I've never seen a drift tire set for a slot car, and I thought, oh, someone somewhere might just be able to produce a drift tire. I mean, I know the Scalextric had their green and orange Nissan 350s that were meant to drift. So there must be tires out there for those that we could, if you wanted.
Just take them off your really old cars.
Yeah, well,
I've gone hard.
I saw these guys discuss it on this. This is
like,
I
gotta go. Bye, guys.
See you, Phil. But Wayne, I hear Carrera makes a bunch of old crap tires.
Well, you can just buy zero grip tires now from.
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing is that zero grip tires actually zero grip tires have more grip than my friend would accept. He was, they're not zero grip. They're actually grippy, and he went so far as to put, super glue on his rear tires.
Nail polish. Yeah, I was going to say put nail polish on them.
Yeah. So he did those things to his rear tires to achieve that slidey thing, but it wore off because the tires were constantly spinning on the track. So it eventually got grippy again. Yeah. So he ended up, I think his final solution was shrink wrap. So he cut, he got a good sized shrink wrap, cut it, put it on the tire and shrank it around the tire. That lasted a good long time. It didn't wear off. With tape, you've got that edge that'll start coming up eventually. But yeah, you pull the trigger and it doesn't go. It just sits there spinning the tires until it finally gets enough that it actually starts moving, and then it's just fishtailing the whole time.
Yeah, that's called.
I did have one little thing that I thought I'd just throw out here, just kind of a throwback to club racing, and I'll share my screen right quick, and then I'll throw this thing up here. Let's see here. Let's look at the one I need to share. I think it's this one. You guys see that screen share?
Not yet. Did you hit the final share button?
Yeah, here you go. I missed it.
There we
I
go.
tried to hit it and then jump over to the other window real quick. If you can see, do you see this math trades page? Is that what you're looking at?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. So here's what you feel like when you're in a race and the marshal goes to get your car. Oh, hold on.
Not that one.
Okay. Takes a look.
Yeah.
Wrong lane.
And then you're thinking, hey, could you put my car, hurry up?
Yeah.
And then they do this. Oh, you're not moving. And then they do this. And you go, and then you have to say something polite like, thank you, right? Yep. So I just thought I'd toss that out there. But we had a group of students out. Just as we talk about club racing, I kind of waited for this because they're not an official club yet. They're days away from their school board sanctioning them as what I will know is the first honest to goodness slot car club at a high school here in Southwest Michigan, maybe in the whole state. But I worked with a school, and their physical science, their physics teacher got 3 slot car sets, and we set that up for some motion and velocity type experiments, right? For
their track.
Yeah, so they have 3 tracks. No, this is not their track, but this group of students came out. Their school sent 80 kids on a school bus, and they came out and they did some racing here at Gilmore Car Museum. And then they went back and found a physics teacher, started having meetings, commandeered a room, and they built a track I haven't had a chance to go see yet. But I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna do some donating to make sure that they're properly equipped to help them get some aprons and stuff like that they didn't need in the physics experiments, but they will need for their track. But anyhow, these kids came out and they did some racing.
That's a great little room though.
Yeah, and you can see the jumping around, but basically what we would get is about a half dozen to 10 students per group, and we just had like 9 or 10 groups come through that day. So they're all from the same school, but they came out and they did some racing, and it really came out well. So we're working now to help them get their permanent track set up. But they were just a great group of kids, just having fun. This one, she got the fastest lap, so she's chewing on the plastic medallion that she got that says, I got the fastest lap. I told her, don't bite that too hard, it'll probably splinter in your teeth. But she was pretty proud to get that medallion. And so that was pretty cool. But just to see the kids coming out and doing stuff, I thought that was pretty awesome. But the marshaling, that's a thing we always scream about when we talk about, hey, what's happening in these groups.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just a pretty cool thing. Pretty cool to have the students come out.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, that's the kind of thing that most of us. That's the kind of thing that most of us are like, boy, wouldn't it be nice to, help mentor a group of kids at a high school, doing a slot car high school club. But
yeah,
getting it done is a whole different thing.
Whole different animal. But I'll tell you what, it's really cool because, the guys on the football squad, they're on that same bus. And so you got, high school football, players, and then you just got kind of like the physics kid that's in there, and you got the game club is on that bus. I mean, everyone's on that bus. So really cool stuff to see them doing it. We're really looking forward to seeing them more. So anyway, it's just kind of a cool thing. I can say I usually shoot photos at these things, and I shoot hundreds of photos. So you're not going to sit here like it's a holiday and you're over at Phil's looking at slides, right? This is not your grandfather's slideshow here. I'm going to try to unshare this screen now. And
well, Phil, the other cool thing is that tell the physics teacher that there are a lot of people in Formula One who started off with slot cars, including Ross Braun.
Yeah. So the whole model car thing is, let me find that share button now.
I gotta go, guys. I'll see y'all.
See you, John.
Okay. Where am I at here?
I stopped your share, by the way.
Okay.
So if you want,
that's why I don't see it. I'm like, what happened to the stop share button? I'm looking all over for it because I can still see the screen I was sharing, right? Because I've got it on one of my displays.
Sorry, I figured you got some
Greg,
kind
where
of
am I
indication.
at, man?
I figured you got some kind of indication that I had stopped your share, but I guess not.
No, I was looking at the wrong display.
No worries.
So,
yeah, fantastic. Love to see that kind of stuff. So thank you very much for sharing that.
So fun stuff. So that's why you see the backdrop behind me with the photos with boxes of cars. You know, I just kind of amass some cars, and when these groups get started, I try and go out and seed them a few things and get them going. So this is going to be a fun one. You know, they've been to the board, they've been to the school board, they've done all the meetings, they've proposed it, they've built their bylaws. You know, they're co-opting the race rules of the racing club that meets twice a month at the track that they were on here in the photos. So there is another club that meets there that's on the, you know, we got a page on Facebook and whatnot. So
are they also like from a class? Are they interested in maybe even building a car or like sort of?
Oh yeah, you know, we've talked about all kinds of stuff that we'd like to see the club do. You know, first we just like it to get its full school board, you know, sanctioned acknowledgement, right? And then from there we can do more stuff. You know, basically, you know, I personally am going to commit to a reasonable amount of money to get them going. You know, if they needed to buy a digital platinum set, they'd be able to buy one. But we've already got 3 Sunset Speedway sets there from that are Scalextrics pieces, and then there's another 8 or so cars there. So they've got cars for the club. We'll do this, but I'd like to see them start and do some stuff in design, because the reason that they're at that track is we have a STEM program, and we talk about various things that you could do in a career surrounding automotive. And we use a slot car track as a way to talk about the various things you see at a track that could fall to your talents, whether you could paint and do liveries, right? Or whether you were someone who was good at stats and was a statistician at a track, or doing race data, or, you know, designing road race, you know, arenas. I mean, there's so many things the kids could do. But I think
even kids who may not be into STEM, they could get into even decorating the track.
That's what I'm saying. They can do everything, right? Art is a part of every industry in the world. So looking for those artists, looking for seamstresses who can sew upholstery. I mean, anything you want to do, you can turn into a great career. So we talked to them about that stuff. That leads to one thing to the next. But I would like to see them doing some stuff in 3D printing, you know, and then, you know, maybe some simple scenery construction, you know, just that kind of stuff. So it should be pretty cool. You know, I've got a long list of things they can do, but I'm limiting my donation funds at $1,000 US. I'm done. So we can use that and go to try to attract funds from other places, and see where we go from.
That's one of the skills you want event organizers and promoters and marketeers.
Yeah. I'm going to really enjoy it if they find a really excellent fundraiser before they run out of money. I donate, because then they won't come back and ask, can I donate more money? And the slot cars, you know, that sounds like a lot of money till you realize that's not a lot of money if you have a slot car hobby. So we'll see where it goes, but it should be really cool. Should be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, good stuff. So let's see. What? All right. So I see a new face down there. Does he want to say anything? You'll need to unmute yourself. Let's see if your microphone works.
Okay, let's try that. How's that?
There we go. How do you pronounce your name, sir?
It's Kieran.
All right, Kieran.
So I'm from South Australia, and it's normally the slot car chat is an odd time for me, and I happen to take today off on sick leave. So when I thought, hey, it's Thursday today, they're on a late shift. Let's see if they're on.
Well, glad you could come.
I've finally caught up starting with number one, I've binged all the way through to today.
Karen, that might be what made you sick.
Yeah.
It could be, and it's actually funny enough. Now that you're on, I've been thinking about doing some not resin cars. I've been thinking about making some molds and actually laying up in carbon fiber. So I've been watching your videos on how to make molds.
Oh, you're the one. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you.
I saw some threads on what I forget which forum it was, probably OSLOT or whatever, but I'd swear I saw a thread on laying carbon fiber for a slot car body shell. Were you taking part in that?
No, I haven't seen it.
I'll have to dig that up.
I've never tried to do that, but I can't imagine it wouldn't be any different than, I mean, the fundamentals are that you've got to make a mold.
Yeah.
And then I guess lay the carbon fiber in some way, shape, or form, and then use some sort of resin. And I imagine it would also have to be cast under pressure of some sort.
I don't know about casting. I think it's actually just laid up.
It's just laid up.
Yeah.
So I've bought myself a BMW, and it's a beautiful car. I got it from Fola, from Slot Fabric in Germany, and the detail on this carbon fiber car is just incredible. It's a 124, but you can see for sure it's laid up.
Yeah.
And light. It's as light as light can be. It's all of 6 grams.
Oh, whoa, that's really light.
Yeah, his work is incredible. So I'll be putting it onto one of his chassis, which is quite unique. These Slot Fabric chassis, that the copper line goes all the way to the front here, and obviously the only wire you need is just from the guide to the copper line
strips,
here.
and then from the copper strips to the end bell.
Correct.
Nice. That's kind of like
And has he got copper strips on the body body shakers too?
No.
He does, and I've only just worked it out what it is. On the H plate, they I guess they press fit right here and over here. They're split through the middle, and that's so you can put lighting on lights on your car, and you're only connecting to these, and they stay with the car rather than using plugs.
Yeah, they stay on the body shell, and then the body shell's just got some little contacts that sit on those.
Oh yeah.
And the body shell can still jiggle because it's using a capacitor in the lighting kit. So the lights don't go out when the connection's disconnected. It just keeps charging as it jiggles.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's cool. All right. Well,
so the first carbon fiber body I'll be doing is DB3.
Good for you.
Oh, nice.
And that's a resin body, and I'll just make a mold of that and lay up carbon fiber. I think what drove me to looking into carbon fiber is I couldn't find myself a Datsun 510 in 132, so I got one from John Warren, and he had the I guess the permission to continue making them from somebody else that's actually made the car in Australia. They no longer do it, but John in New Zealand is doing his 510s, and I said to him, look, I would love to make a one-piece mold with obviously all the bits glued into place, but I'll make it into a carbon fiber body. These are hard to get, the 510. I don't know why they never made any kits.
I don't think any of us know, but the 510 that John Warren's doing in New Zealand was the one that David Reinecke did in Colorado originally. He made the original molds.
Oh, I thought he was Australian. Sorry. Okay.
No, he's an American. He did a lot of good work. Unfortunately, he became allergic to the resin, so he can't do it anymore.
I had read that. Yeah.
He came in the chat, did he not?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, Kieran should know that. He watched them all. Yeah.
Yeah. Which episode was he in, Kieran? 30 or 40 or something?
My memory's not that great.
So if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I should go start on episode 1 and just watch them all, do me a favor, take notes. Because people are always begging me to go to put like what we talked about, and like list it out so they can find, so they can go back and find it. I'm like, nope, that's not going to happen.
Table of contents.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put a table of contents. That way you force people to watch it.
Yeah.
And index of some sort.
You should have chapters on all the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you still gotta put it in. Somebody's got to put it in.
Yeah. You.
Yeah, no.
So you had interjected and said to me, "Don't bother trying to catch up." I think I've made a comment on maybe 60 something when you were doing the giveaway.
Which one?
Yeah. Oh, 60 something. That was like
you started doing the giveaways. It was your first giveaway when Google had
that was Jeremy's,
or YouTube had actually paid you, and you thought, "Oh, I've got a surprise for you."
Yeah, remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so yeah.
What became of it, Jeremy? Is it still good? Is it still racing or what?
Is what?
The first giveaway that we did. I think you won was it a Revo slot?
No, it wasn't me.
The first.
It wasn't. Sorry, it wasn't Jeremy.
No, the first giveaway was. I'm blanking on his name, but he only comes in once or twice. He's the one that
it's the guy with
the concrete.
Yeah.
He's the one that designed the concrete pump truck that we saw a couple weeks ago.
That's the one. Yeah. Sorry, Jeremy.
But yeah, I love it when people watch all the videos, especially when they watch all the ads, because that means money and we can do more giveaways.
Right.
What were you going to say, DeJuan?
I had guests over the weekend, and I mentioned that I had my TV watching me playing the old chats and everything, and they just say, "What are you doing in your room?" All that with the chats playing in the background. But I thought the same thing this week about creating some type of an index of all the different chats. Within the chats themselves, do you go through there and actually put the timestamps on the different subjects, or how does that happen?
If you see timestamps on any of these videos, then that's YouTube trying to automatically detect when there's another topic of discussion. Like they might choose a lull in the conversation and then decide that another conversation started at that point. But no, I've never gone back and set any points.
Wow. Are they doing the automating because I see a lot of videos with timestamps. I wonder how the hell they get there.
Yeah, they're there for our chats. They're there for our chats.
To make
Are they?
So we just need to have an uncomfortable pause between each topic.
Exactly.
And then it's all solved.
So
Come on.
What you want is a pause and just
2,000, 3,000, 4,000.
The problem is
just say
no
next
one can stay
topic.
quiet enough for that to happen.
There you go. Everybody shut up.
Just say next topic. Dear YouTube, here's a new topic.
I guess I'll have to go back to some older videos to see if I can, see how well it lines up with actual. DeJuan, did you notice that it lined up with actual changes of discussion, or?
Well, ironically, I actually I did some notes. I know that on chat 114, that when Jim Cunningham did his little tour of all of his tracks and things like that, and then I had episode 99 was tips on driving, and episode 118 it was.
Hey, if you want to send me notes, I'll be happy to copy and paste. I can copy and paste like nobody's business.
We need to commission someone and pay them zero to do all that.
Someone used to do commentary. Was it Jeremy that put commentary in the
Yeah, it was a different Jeremy. Yeah, on Slot Racer. If you go to Slot Racer,
it was really good. I liked it. It was really good.
Yeah, if you go to slotracer.online, he did kind of a running commentary or description of what we talked about, but not like itemized or anything or with timestamps. It was just like, oh, and then they talked
listen,
about.
I'm going to be the most honest. I was just looking for my name in those things, man.
But he did. But they were great. You know, if you actually scanned those, you could say, oh, well, they talked about this. I'd like to go see it, and then watch it. But yeah, he had life things.
Interesting when someone approaches you at a race meeting like they know you, and then and you think, do I know you? And they go, yeah, I've seen you in the chats. I've watched all the chats.
Buy me a drink then.
One person's come to me and admitted that they watched the chat.
That's why I don't go to model shows anymore. I don't want those 3 people bothering me.
Yeah, such a hassle. All right, are we losing focus here? Do we have any other slot car related things? Are we going to end the show early? Should I dig up the topic?
I may as well introduce what I do a little bit. Since I'm new and you're just getting to know who this person is, I love modeling. Whilst I love modeling, I love to race my cars. I don't have any bench queens or shelf queens. They go straight in the track. But what I do love doing is putting them together and airbrushing. Oh man, I love airbrushing. And on one of the episodes, I'd seen somebody's there's got the 333, and that is one of my favorite cars. And that's one that I've airbrushed, and it's a beauty, but it drives like a pig.
Is that like,
it drives like a pig.
Is that a fly or what is it?
No, it's a Revo slot by the looks of it.
Is it the Revo?
Wow. It's the Revo.
Ow.
Wow.
They should
really.
They should be not driving like a pig.
No.
Well, the first thing you need to do with any Revo is true the tires.
Yeah.
Once the tires are true, they really do work a lot better.
Mm-hmm. So I use BRM E22s on this, and E22s are really hard to get hold of. But the tires work well. I spend a lot of time truing tires, and then I sit polishing from I think 320 all the way up to 3000.
Wow.
On a board, and then I go from the 3000, then I go to an aluminium plate, and I just put a bit of spray on the aluminium plates. I actually just use a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on the aluminium plate, and I just clean it up until they're glowing.
They would be after that.
Yeah. Can you hold that car up again so we can look at the tires getting closer?
Show us your fancy tires.
Those are pretty worn down now, and dirty, I guess. They've been up on the shelf for a little bit.
I was gonna say, as soon as you put it on the track, there goes all your polishing work.
And what kind of track are you running on?
They're wood tracks.
And what kind of surface do they have?
It wouldn't be polished like a polished surface. It's just a smooth paint.
Yeah.
It's a nice 8-lane track. My local club. Well, it's not a club actually. It's a private track. It's a track called War, Western Adelaide Raceway.
Okay.
I've got some pictures, but I don't have them ready, and I've seen. You really got to have them ready on your screen, ready to share. But I didn't.
It does help.
Didn't think I'd actually jump in today.
Hey, well, I'm glad you could come. If you feel like digging up some pictures, we got plenty of time.
Yeah, I've got heaps of pictures and heaps of film.
That's a really nice paint job, though. It really looks good.
It looked production. That's
Thank
fantastic.
Very nice indeed.
That's what I like doing.
So I'm digging into my grab bag of topics, and this one jumped out at me. Front suspension. Is there a place for it? What if it were possible to keep the wheels down with the aid of a spring, for example? Is front suspension ever a good thing? Discuss.
So you mean like a Plavit, like a Plavit chassis, or even a chassis like this, like Fowler's one here? It's got springs in the front here, and it does a fantastic job.
I guess that would
And
qualify.
the Plavit is very similar kind of setup.
The interesting thing about Fowler's chassis and the Plavits and a couple of others that are sprung like that is that the springing is there to allow the rear end of the car to do what it wants. Because there is a solid connection between the wheels and the front wheels and the guide. Right?
Yeah.
That relationship is not changed by any of those types of things. Now, if you get to a point where you have some sort of system where the front wheels are suspended with reference to the guide, all bets are off, in my opinion. I haven't ever seen a front suspension that allows the front wheels to move up and down independently of what the guide's doing to ever be really any good at all.
I see what you mean. So instead of how he's got it on here, the guide is actually still connected to that plate.
Correct.
It would be better. It'd be better to have that guide connected to the aluminium.
No. What I'm saying is that the way that he's done it is the right way, because what you want to do is you want the front wheels running on the track to keep the guide straight up in the slot. Because the longer the guide stays straight up in the slot, the better the contact is with the braids on the track, and the better power you get. Right? As soon as you separate the guide from the front wheels, now you can get a situation where the guide starts to tilt in the slot, right, as the chassis moves. And what does that do? It takes the pressure off one or other of the braids on the car, and you don't get the power anymore, right? That's part of the problem. What those chassis do, the Fowlers and the Plavits and the Devactors and any of the others that like that, they allow the rear end of the car to move independently to the front end of the car. And that allows the weight of the motor to pick up the inside wheel a little bit and allow the car to turn more easily in the turn, because you've got wired, quite sticky foam tires at the back. And the more that you allow the inside wheel to pick up, the simpler and easier it is for the car to turn through the corner.
Also,
if you have a go-kart functions, isn't it? A full-size go-kart.
Yeah.
By lifting an inside rear wheel.
That's exactly how a full-size car works. Yeah, but they do it by means of the caster on the front wheels because of the steering.
Yes.
Which we used to do. Jim Rose will remember we used to do that on 1/8 scale radio control cars that had solid axles at the back. You run a lot of caster on the front so that it allows the inside wheel to lift at the back.
If you have a guide that tilts and ramps as the car goes around the corner, it always runs on the outside of the slot, the guide. And if the guide tilts, it forms a nice angle, and the front end can come out much easier. It can ride up on the ramp and ride out of the slot on the front easier too.
You know, the steel pan chassis that the commercial, raceways tend to use, and you say that they use sponge tires that experience compression in the outside rear in the turn. Do they not necessarily also generate that angle of guide that goes with the tilting of the rear axle?
They would if the front end of the chassis was any significant distance above the track. But there are those little wings at the front of the chassis that are running either right on the track or maybe 0.005 of an inch above the track. And so they act like outriggers, much the same as the wheels would do. Kieran's got something in his hand there.
So I guess that's what you're talking about.
Oh, that's a Champion
Turboflex.
Correct.
Oh, good old Turboflex. Yeah, no,
Well,
you
those
still
front
ran with
central sets,
front
really.
wheels on that, but the modern stuff has no front wheel at
Yeah.
all, and the car runs right on the wings. Let me go get one.
It seems to be that each club has a Dennis, and the Dennis is always the ingenious one that knows everything. So we have a Dennis here.
We're lucky. We have two.
Yeah, we got a Dennis here, and I tell you what, he's come up with something that's pretty incredible here. So this is digging up some
Oh,
really
wow.
old cars here. But
Ooh, love it.
if you look here, it's got a fulcrum.
Yeah.
So as you're going over a dip, over a crest, it keeps the guide in play every time.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some really interesting cars, you know. I got some just to take some photos of.
Oh, those are cool old cars.
Like
Love
a,
it.
So
it looks like it was the
front suspension as it applies or doesn't to a smooth wooden track. Has anyone considered that it might be functional on bumpy plastic tracks? Or helpful?
The MR slot car has a front suspension that's actually a lower control arm kind, and it works pretty well.
Which car, Michael?
I've only got the
MR slot car.
MR
Like the one
slot
that
car.
I was showing earlier on.
Oh yeah. I've seen the independent axles front end, and you can get those two, like you say, swing axles. Are they, or are they actually a lower arm?
That's
you
the.
know,
Oh yeah, Dennis has got the one.
These are the latest versions of the car that Kieran was showing, which is kind of a couple of decades old by now. But these corners right here, they actually touch the track when you're racing. The whole front end of this car will drag on the track, and you'll see by the time you're done with the race that it picks up all the glue and the foam, and so the front end of the car gets quite black. This one's brand new, so that's why it's so clean.
But it wouldn't run on anything bumpy. It wouldn't run on plastic. So
hell no. As soon as you get onto plastic, you'd have to give it a bit more clearance. Yeah.
So you were saying, Michael, you've got an MR slot car with front suspension, have you?
Yeah. Let me go get it.
Does it run well on your place?
It runs really pretty well. Yes.
Does it run better than it ran without the suspension?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Better than it ran without the suspension, but it doesn't run any better than some other cars.
Okay. I'm just trying to think, because the first thing that happens with the MR slot cars with suspension is on certain cars, is that the wheels drag against the body as soon as they move.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, they go up in the arch of the body shell.
Yeah, there was. I mean, that was one of the problems early on, anyway, with the MR slot car McLarens, is that you needed to put a very low profile tire on them, otherwise the wheels were grabbing in the wheel arches, and then if you put a suspension in there, then it just gets worse.
Yeah.
The suspensions typically work better with sponge rear tires because the sponge tires can compress. As soon as you have a suspension on the front with hard tires, and hard tires, I mean rubber, silicone, and or urethanes, you need the front wheels to actively support the platform so you don't start lifting the inside rear tire in a corner.
And yet a lot of people set up the front end so that the weight is on the guide and the front wheels barely touch. They're just flying. Oh gosh, that's a lot of throw, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And you're right, Dennis. I think it does hit on the inside of the body.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't get that amount of throw when the car's on the track. That's for dead shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
I haven't played with it a lot. It does have, it does have adjustability on it, but I don't have any other slot car to go against it. I'm going to get one of the 333 SPs
Yeah,
And you,
I think
you can
probably
see this.
your major advantage from that system is not so much from the suspension, but from the fact that the front wheels are rotating independently.
Mhm.
That's why probably why the car is quicker or easier to drive or
Could
less
be.
chattery or whatever. But
I can't remember whether I put that on first and then tried the suspension afterwards, or whether I put them on simultaneously. But
the thing about it, what I'd like to see, if you could put that car on something where the guide is not supported, right? But where the car's sitting just on its wheels, like on a piece of board with a big ass hole in the middle where the guide would be, right? And see whether the weight of the car actually depresses those springs or not.
At all, yeah.
Nope.
It's doubtful, looking at how firm they appear to be.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. The only time it would be when it rolls.
Yeah. So when the car's under its own weight, it's not deflecting those springs.
No.
All right. Okay. So now when you go along a track and you get a bump in the track, right? Most of that bump is still going to be absorbed by lifting the whole body, because the car itself's not heavy enough to compress the spring. So any extra weight that's coming from underneath, or any extra force that's coming from underneath, is just going to lift the car the way it always did, right? Because with a full-size car, right? When you put the car on its springs, it sinks, right? It sinks quite a long way. If you think about it, you have a lot of rebound and a lot of bounce in a spring set on any one wheel, right? The wheel is sitting roughly in the middle of its travel, up and down. And now when you hit something, the car has enough weight that the wheel will travel up against the spring. But if the slot car is sitting on its wheels and those springs are not compressed at all, then they're way too strong. You get what I'm saying?
That's interesting.
And if they were any lighter, well, then it wouldn't support the car in the roll in the corner. The front outside wheel would just pop up into the air.
Correct. So now what you need to do is you need to put very soft springs in there, and then you need to put an anti-roll bar across the front.
Oh yeah.
And by the time you're finished, you might as well just use a solid axle, right? Because because the solid axle is an anti-roll bar across the front, right?
And then cover the tires in cellophane tape.
Make the front wheels rotate independently, and away you go.
Well, it is interesting because it has 4 grub screws in the front for adjustment of the camber of the wheels.
You don't
I haven't
want
played with that at all.
You don't want it.
No.
All it's going to do is narrow. All it's going to do is narrow the track and put you on the inside edge of
because
tires.
You've got such wide tires. As soon as you give it any camber, it's running on the inside diameter of the tire now instead of on the outside. I mean, if you were using O-ring tires up front, then cambering the front's a great idea because you can get the body lower at the front and everything comes down. We used to do that on all of our scratch built stuff when we still had to, in the days when the rules said that you still had to have front wheels that touched and rolled. You camber them so that you can get the front end lower. Right?
And it gets wider too, yeah? The contact patches.
Oh, yeah, well, there are width rules, so you had to be inside the width.
Yeah.
Well, the springs that are on this are pretty light. I mean, I don't have to put a lot of weight on it, but of course the car doesn't weigh much regardless. But
if that was mine, I would be looking at ways to limit the travel and limit it right down to about 1 millimeter, 0.5 millimeter, play around in that range.
Dennis, this is what you meant by angling the front wheels.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's negative camber, yes.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, negative camber. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes the chassis go down.
You see, the intrigue there is, could you maintain a better braid contact because of a track joint that would normally interfere with the braid contact by bumping the front wheels up? could you absorb that on the front wheel and actually maintain like I say, a better brake contact?
As long as the rail on the track isn't following the same bump that's bumping the wheels up. I mean, if everything's like that, if the rail was flat and the track has a discontinuity, then yes, as soon as those things move up, then it would cushion that and allow the guide to stay there. But if the track and the braid, the rail and the track are like that, then what difference does it make?
Yeah.
Anyway, I haven't done a lot of playing with it, so you sort of intrigued me. If I have some time, I'll go ahead. I will crank the springs down for one thing, and see if it makes any difference as far as just using the independent axles. If I crank it down tight, I've basically got the independent axles.
Yeah, and I remember when we were fiddling with the slotted magnetic suspension at the rear end or on the pod, either on all 4 pod screws or just on the rear 2. It was a long brass screw that went through the chassis and through the pod, and then 2 little circular magnets with holes in them that you put on the brass screw, and they were set with opposite polarity so that they repel, right? And that springs the rear end of the car.
Yeah.
Problem was, the first time round, the magnets are so strong, it doesn't do anything, right? You could push it with your finger and it works great, but when you put it on the track, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, the car doesn't weigh enough.
And that's why if you look in slotted catalogs these days, there's a whole bunch of different sizes of those magnets. And some of them, by comparison to the originals were like 6 millimeter diameter, maybe by 1 millimeter thick. And nowadays you can get them right down to maybe 3 millimeters diameter or 4 millimeter diameter by 0.5 millimeter thick. They are tiny, so that you can get much less magnetic repulsion in effectively make a softer spring.
Yeah, it made it too stiff without any movement, and it negated the suspension. Yeah,
and I mean, that was what I thought about that was the magnets are just not far enough apart. But you're saying
yes, but I mean, eventually space limitations are going to play into it. The originals you couldn't fit under some of those bodies in the first place anyway. You couldn't do it under the.
What's the hole through the center? 2 millimeters, isn't it? So if you're talking 3 and 4 millimeter diameters, they're like rings.
Yeah, they are tiny. They're tiny.
I didn't know about those. I've never played with the magnetic suspension. I always understood that the problem was exactly as you've just described and left it entirely alone.
Yeah, I managed to get some smaller ones at one stage, and then it was a little more effective. But on the tracks I run, which are all wood tracks and very smooth, you really don't need suspension. So I haven't bothered with it in a long time.
No. Well, I've been playing with it a fair amount because it seems to be effective on my Scale Extra track. Most of the cars that I put suspension on are better off. Not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah.
It varies from car to car. And I found on the LMP cars, I use Scale Autos because there isn't enough space to put the slotted suspension in.
Yeah.
On the angle winder, I use the Scale Auto smaller, larger diameter springs. Overall, and they seem to work pretty well. They've made the LMP cars much more controllable on my track.
And you used a bunch of those Thunderslot foam rings at one stage too, didn't you?
Yeah.
You used the foam suspension on some of them too.
Yeah,
and that's quite successful.
On Thunderslot, they work great for sure. I haven't had as much success doing it with other cars. But I haven't replicated the Thunderslot methodology of using all 5 points. So I have to go through that and do that and see what happens. But my Thunderslot cars are really, really nice to drive on my track with this. Some of the closest races we've had, have been with
They
those.
they're really, really nice to drive, even right out of the box.
Yeah, well, they're nicer
very,
to
very
drive,
good cars.
but they're at least a half a second faster with the suspension on my track.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I'm sure.
and much more, it made them much more forgiving
Right.
and thus easier to drive, and you can sit at the limit and keep your times much more consistent. And that works really well.
And did you
So-
try springs on those Thunderslot cars too, Mike?
I have not yet, no. You know,
Foam pads. Oh, I
haven't
wonder
taken
if
the
you
time.
put your finger on what it is about the Thunderslots that means that they work well on the sponge pads where other cars don't.
The first thing is, I think that the little pads that Thunderslot use are about what 4 millimeters high, and there's just not enough space on other cars to use that same thing. You have to cut them in half. That's what I've done at times. And
Well, MR slot car has the half thickness ones,
oh,
but
okay.
they're a little denser.
Mhm.
In fact, on this chassis right here, you might be able to see that there's a pad on the side there. You see that pad?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the pad there. And below that, on the screw side underneath, there's a conical spring. So it's
Oh,
a
wow.
progressive. So
Okay.
that's what he's done there. So I don't know. It's interesting to play with.
Well, that's the whole part of the hobby, right?
Yep. I agree.
I supported my body shell on little foam pads. You've probably seen in my video. And the body shell shakes just the same, absolute silence. It's wonderful.
Right.
I also put some in between the motor pod and the chassis. I mean, really thin ones, just to stop the motor pod moving fore and aft as much as it was capable of. And I don't think that did any harm at all either. We did discuss the merits or otherwise of the motor pod being able to move forward and aft in the chat. And so I actually stopped it, and I stopped it with foam pads, and to no detriment whatsoever. I like foam pads.
On the
Chris will
Thunderslot,
tell you he's a great fan of those.
You might want to try the
Oh, pictures.
instead of the foam pads are great. I mean, they act as suspension. Foam doesn't have a great long-lasting memory. So after a while, the rebound and compression of foam will change. Whereas if you use these little silicone washers, silicone has a much longer it's got a much better memory. So I've been using silicone washers between the body and the posts, and also silicone washers between both above the pod lugs and below the pod lugs, front and back. And you really cushion the whole motor pod. They work on Thunderslot. This one has a motor brace on the back, which is a different story altogether. You can get these in various thicknesses. I like the ones that are 1/2 mil thick, and they will raise the pod, especially the slot-up pods in the chassis. But what you do on the bottom of the pod lugs is just trim 1/2 mil off of the bottom of the pod lug, and you get back to your original ride height with the motor pod.
My finding with those things is that they are a lot firmer than any spring or sponge pad that I've got. I'm not saying
they are.
I'm not saying that's. I don't know how what range of motion you actually permit when you set those nylock nuts against those pads. Would you say there is clear space, or would you say that those are trapped between the silicones?
Well, again, most of the cars I run, 99% of the cars I run are on wood tracks. And most of the cars I run now have rubber tires. So the surface of the wood track and the treated rubber tires together generate an awful lot of grip going around corners.
Yeah.
So as you have a lot of grip, the torsional twist in the chassis needs to increase. Otherwise, you start introducing a lot of chatter in the chassis. So, you know, for plastic tracks, I would run these with a hair of movement. But on wood tracks, I snug the pods. I don't compress the silicone. I just snug the bottom of the pod lugs up to the surface of the silicone. So there is no free movement. It's controlled flux.
And I work on the Ninco track with the control tire, which is almost the opposite set of circumstances, because we don't get the level of grip between the surface of the tire and the track. And we've also got the bumps. So I have got some of those flat silicone washers. Thanks very much to Mike for helping me acquire some from the States. And I have started to use them, but I've still got spring sets in there. And I quite like the Scale Auto one, but I do find, Mike, that of the three, I think there's silver, black, and gold. And I think there's only the black one that is of use to a car that's the weight of the cars that I'm using in the 75 to 90, no, it's probably 85 gram range. The other two are either way harder than you want or way softer than you want. And
is that
I've also
the
got
mid-range spring?
It's the black one. It's the center. It's the middle. It's the medium. Yes.
Yeah.
And I also have a spring tuning kit from Black Arrow, and I'm finding pretty much the same kind of thing. Even though they've got a wider range of springs, it's only really the right one for the weight of the car that is the useful one. And if you were running an extremely light car, then it would be a different spring that would be useful. But the difference between one and another is too big. The steps are too large. And it really only narrows you down to one. You know, the other one, you try the other one and the car's clearly not absorbing anything. Go one softer and it's kind of working, and then if you go softer again, you can see the thing flipping and flopping. You can see it. You can see it shaking and tramping, and probably even starting to do this chattering thing that I see on the wood tracks. But we don't get much grip at all. We're always chasing more.
On the Thunder slots with the 5 motor pod screws, I was asking on slot form, but I couldn't get an answer. Is there any benefit to just using 3 of those, like maybe the one in the front, the 2 in the back, or the side, or did you just go with all 5?
On plastic or wood, Jeremy?
On wood, on a wood stock Thunder slot. I was just curious if there's any benefit to moving those around.
You can't talk about the chassis without talking about the motor and talking about the tires. So as you introduce more grip and as you introduce more power through the motor, you need a stiffer overall flexing chassis. So if you go down to, if you go down to stock scale electric motors and not very much grip tires, you can introduce a lot of torsional flex into the chassis, which will aid loading the rear tires and improving grip. But also track configuration is going to change it. Tight, twisty tracks will favor a softer car, where higher speed, more open flowing tracks will favor a slightly stiffer torsion in the chassis. So the answer is you really need to play around with it.
Test. Yeah. I've got an experience that plays into that, Jeremy. The slotted pod nowadays doesn't have 5; it has 6, doesn't it?
Yeah. I cut the 2 of them off, and I just use the.
Well, I've got experience of that now. I'm in the low grip situation, and the amount of travel that's available in those spring tuning kits that we were just mentioning there, Scale Auto, even the shorter ones, way shorter than the slotted ones or the NSR ones. The range of travel that's available to you is, you can count in millimeters. You can count sometimes 3 millimeters of spring throw if you loosen the screws far enough to do it. And if you permit that and try and run a car with that amount of travel, it will use it. It will take advantage of it, and it will the front part of the car, which includes the body shell and the main chassis, will roll all that way. And I find that if I tighten it down somewhat and reduce the travel down to about, I'm going to say maximum of 1 millimeter, the car will stay much flatter in the turns, and it will keep a composure that allows it to maintain its grip level much better than when it doesn't. But I've tried recently an experience that we had with a slotted pod in a racer sideways chassis, and we were using the two front. We had springs, 4 springs on there, the 1 on the front of the motor pod and the 2 out on the wings, and the car was running okay, but it wasn't great. And we did most of a day of practice before a 6-hour enduro that way. And then it was on the setup plate, and I pressed the rear body post where the body shell was applying the forces to the chassis. And what I discovered was that the springs out on the wings of the pod were not experiencing any compression whatsoever, but I could still push the chassis all the way to the ground. And what was actually happening was that the chassis was bending between the spring mounts, between where the side springs were and the back, because it goes very narrow there to get around the motor pod and in between the rear wheels. It was all just in flex in the chassis. So I took the springs off the sides of the motor pod, moved them to the back of the motor pod, and this was literally days after a conversation where Dennis had expressed that his experience was that he didn't much use the wings on the motorbike, he preferred them at the back. So I moved them from the sides to the back, and the car ran much better during the event. But I've since done more racing on 4 springs in those locations, and I've now got a desire to try to add some more to the 2 alternative wing positions. I'm thinking 4 is a little bit too rolly, and I want to control that roll with springs out on the wings next, perhaps.
Is that what your hand was up for, Jeremy?
Depends on the chassis stiffness as well as everything else.
Dewan had a question. He better go. Yeah. Okay. We're running out of time.
We're low on time for the recording. We can talk with more stuff after we hit the stop button. Dewan, did you want to get something in the last 10 minutes?
Well, it's a totally different subject. It was dealing with I mentioned I had some friends come by past few days, and part of my embedding the hobby with new hobbyists is to give away a whole system. And he's taking his track down to Argentina, and they have limited space down there, and he's trying to come up with a way of deploying his layout and putting it back up very easily. And I've seen several concepts of flippable tabletops and things like that. And I didn't know, I was trying to find some references for him to look at. He's a very good woodworker, so he's trying to put some things together.
Well, Jeremy, you raise your track to the ceiling, don't you?
Yeah.
First, I was gonna say, what did you give him? Did you give him a Scalextric set or something?
No, classic Revell.
Revell, come on, where you been?
Oh no, oh no, I got no help for you there. I don't know.
I mean, it really comes down to what kind of space he has and where he wants to store.
He wants to flip it on the side. He doesn't want. It's not. He has a garage. He has. It's going to be in an office environment that he can flip down and flip up on the side. And there's ways of securing the track to the table. That's not an issue. It's just more like he's looking for some design mechanisms.
The advantage to sticking it to hinging it on the wall, obviously, is that it's a lot easier to deploy because you only have to worry about leaning it down. But the disadvantage is you're stuck with, however wide the track is going to be is based on how, track height to ceiling. So it's not, it can't be very wide. The one that I usually point people towards, and I'll try to find a link for it and share it, is on, I think it's on both HRW and Slot Car Illustrated, and I'm blanking on the name of the guy who made it, and some of you will probably recognize what I'm talking about, but it's a fairly large table. It's like, 18 or 20 by 6 or 8 feet wide. It was originally a
Standard
plastic
8x4.
track. What was that?
Gonna be standard 8x4. It's gonna be a standard 8x4 table. So
Well, I did this concept with an 8x4 table as well, but it's basically couple of sheets of plywood with a curved corner on one edge.
Oh, is this the rolling moon one? It's like,
yeah, you fold the legs out, and then you can basically just roll the whole thing onto its feet. Whether you do casters or not, so you can move it later, is up to you. But then he did casters, right? So you basically fold the plywood legs, stiffen them with a couple of braces, and then roll the whole layout. You can do it. One person can do it, and then you move the layout on its casters to a convenient spot in the room. And then when you're done, you roll it back up towards the wall, lift it and roll it to the wall, and then fold the legs back in, and then maybe have a strap or a couple of hooks to keep it from falling over if somebody bumps it. But it's an ingenious design, and he did he built his own beams, doing a box beam concept so that they were light but very strong.
Know the size of a standard table.
Then, Greg, you have what are those little clasps that you made? They used to be stainless steel, and you secure a electric track to them. Those little press buttons.
Yeah.
Do they make anything like that? I don't know what his track at the bottom of it looks like, but man, those are a lifesaver.
I thought those were cool too, but I'd have to have the track.
Lex locks
somewhere. Yeah, Lex locks. By
Greg.
Yeah, I don't know.
Greg,
I don't know
was
what the
that,
bottom of your track
was
looks
that
like.
track built by Eric Pugh?
I don't think it was Eric's.
He and his brother are really good wooden hydroplane builders, and they use some of those techniques where they build these super light, super strong little boats, and they're really fast. But they use those techniques to build a wood track, and it has this sort of elliptical leg system underneath it, and it's one person can roll the whole thing up against the wall, and like you say, he has a strap, and then I think that if I recall correctly,
it might be
legs fold up against the bottom of it. He has it in his garage.
Yeah,
and he has full use of his garage except for about 6 or 8 inches or something.
Yeah,
I seem to
really
remember
cool.
that one of the very first ones I saw like that was a guy in Australia. Because I seem to remember seeing it on Slot Forum some years back, and I was pretty sure that he was an Australian. Sometimes they come up with good ideas.
Absolutely.
He's not even listening to me. I've got this half a smile out of Kieran down there, man. Come on.
Mount the track because they're already upside down.
No.
Another one to look at is Mr. Trax, how he does it.
Yeah,
aren't his
that makes a really nice looking track too.
Isn't a table tennis table 8 foot 4 foot?
5 by 9.
Oh, it's 5 by 9.
5 by 9. Well, I always imagine a slot car track would fold nicely on a cheap rollaway folding table tennis table.
Yeah, the problem is that you can't make them come together. It's hard to.
You have to put a track piece in or take it out across the joint, aren't you?
Yeah, something like that, or assemble the track every time you put the table down. I'll look for that thread, and I'll make sure I get a link to you or put it in the description.
The J-Track thing that's on Slot Racer, I just threw a link in there.
Yeah, that's
but the J-Track is designed to be modular, and if you attached it, it's modular and movable. So he could build something like that, if you just take a look at that link, Dewan, that might be a good one if you look in the chat right now. And I thought that was really intriguing. Recently, I saw someone post something like it on Facebook, on our club page. Someone just threw in a link like, hey, check this track out. But I think that's a really neat idea. And
are they 1 meter squares?
Somewhere coming down the road here, I'm probably going to do something like this for taking to the marina, because it would be easy for me to fold it up and like, kind of pitch it in the back seat of the convertible and just show up with a bunch of, 4 foot long sections. And, I could just pick them up and throw them out of the car, put them on the floor and fold the legs
but
out.
Phil, if anything marine costs 10 times as much, doesn't it?
Well, I'm taking this to the marina. This isn't something they'll actually fix, right? So, a boat bust out another 1,000, right?
So Wayne, the J-Track is a cool concept. The size of the table pieces are based on the length and geometry of Scalextric Sport Track. So like a section that's designed to have just straightaways in it, I think is designed to have either 3 or 4 standard Scalextric straights in length. And then they came up with a bunch of different curve combinations that fit that length and different T and L and different shapes and stuff. Yeah, that's the layout built on that concept. And, it's a consistent spacing between the tracks at every join, so you can mix and match the pieces together in a different layout configuration every time.
Yeah, I've seen them before,
but you can do the same thing. You can do the same thing. You could do the same thing by just laying a track out, and if he's good with woodworking, all he'd have to do is lay it out, outdoors, right, or wherever he's going to put the thing together, and go, well, I can have a 4x8 and just lock it down, and once it's locked onto, if I was just going to use a 4x8 sheet of plywood, I'd do a 4x8 sheet of plywood, do a 2x4s around the perimeter to stiffen it up so it doesn't start to bow in the middle somewhere. And then I attach the track to the board, decorate it as necessary, and then just put some folding legs on it. When you're done with it, just take it, fold the legs up on one end, set it on the floor, fold the other legs up, and treat it like a giant table with folding legs. Then just lean it on the wall somewhere. If it's 4 feet, if it's 8 feet long and he's got a room that's, 10 feet long, he's got room for a door there. It could be on the wall with the door. But if you wanted something cooler that could give you more length, you could take that 4x8 or a couple sheets and build something like this, and then just lay it out, cut the wood to fit, and then just throw legs on it. Where you join it up, join it up, pull the pins out, and just lock the track down to the board.
Yep, lots of ideas for Dewan. Jeremy, did you want to get something in at the end of the recording, or do you? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop button, and then we'll chat about other things and slot cars and continue various chats. So until next week, everybody, bye. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Bye.